In 2017, the entire energy market of Vietnam was facing a serious problem, which is its depend entirely on traditional coal power. Global analysis predicted that Vietnam would soon become one of the world's most coal-dependent economies. But then, something unpredicted happened. In the span of just a few short years, Vietnam has become a country with one of the fastest renewable energy transition in the regional history. So how did a country that relies on fossil fuel power change so quickly? What challenges that we are facing, and what will happen next in the Vietnam energy market? In this video, we will break down the energy trends of Vietnam over the years since 2017, also explain the major policy change that affect the market and what you can expect next in the future of energy in Vietnam in the next few years. Let's break it down in this video. Hello everyone, Jane is here and welcome back to Jane Talks Energy, a platform where I do research to educate myself and also to give the general knowledge to all the professionals out there who are interested to learn more about the RE sector here in Vietnam. I also work in the RE sector in the past few years, and the idea to make this channel was because I realized that I am so lack of knowledge in the sector that I am working in. So with very humble effort, I hope that I can connect the dots for you. And this video you are about to watch right here, it will fall into a very deep dive and detailed information category. From time to time, I usually do general topic one, but this one is gonna be more detailed as we go into the policy changes and the trends in energy market in Vietnam with the milestone is since 2017. Let's go. To understand where Vietnam is going, we have to look back at how this growth started. Back in 2017, the Vietnamese government realized that relying solely on coal imports was a massive risk to the national energy security. To spark immediate private investment, they launched a high incentive policy tool called Feed-in Tariff or FIT. Essentially, the government guaranteed private developers a fixed price for every kilowatt hour of renewable energy like solar and wind that they can pump into the national grid for the long duration of 20 years. And because of that announcement, the corporate response was overwhelming. And if you work in the sector, you would remember during that time we have two construction peaks for renewable energy in Vietnam. Vietnam's total solar power capacity grew more than 3,800 times within just 10 years, reaching over 19,000 megawatts. In a very short time, the country moved ahead of its neighbors to become Southeast Asia leader in renewable energy. However, this rapid growth also created problems. Private companies were building solar and wind power plants much faster than the national utility EVN that could upgrade the power grid. In this case, it's EVN that could upgrade the power grid, which I will do a video in later on in the future. By 2022, this led to a major issue called grid curtailment. The transmission line became overloaded, so EVN has to add many of new solar and wind farms to reduce their output. This meant that a lot of clean energy was wasted and caused concern among international investors. When the Feed-in Tariff initiative ended, the entire market slowed down because the investor was kind of waiting for the government to announce what they would do next. The answer came through a major policy changes, including a new electricity law and the updated DPPA. Vietnam energy policy has changed a lot. The time of strong government support and easy subsidies for clean energy is over. Now the country is moving toward a more market-driven system. Instead of building large centralized solar farm in remote area that can overload the transmission line, the focus is shifting away from that approach. So right now, instead of building solar farms in remote areas that can put tremendous pressure on the national grid, the focus right now has shifted to two initiatives. The first is DPPA, which stands for Direct Power Purchase Agreement, in which I have made a video. You can check it out, or you can refer to it as corporate PPA, but in Vietnam it was called DPPA. So for DPPA is for large corporations who are interested in getting their energy 100% renewable. So DPPA encourage large corporations, they can buy renewable energy from a private developers. The second focus is through self-consumption, which is to encourage factories and also households to install solar for their own use, reducing the pressure for the national grid. And even with these fixes, Vietnam's economy is targeting aggressive growth over the next decade. To sustain this, electricity demand is projected to grow in double digits annually. But how will they fill the gap? So now we talk of the time frame of the development of renewable energy in Vietnam. Right now in 2026 and onward, what you can expect is the next major shift or energy trends in Vietnam. Let's find out in the next part, and we will also compare it and also take inspiration from neighboring economy that also have the same movement in renewable energy, so to kind of predict what will happen in the Vietnam energy market. So the first initiative we can see it was shift from a government-driven to market-driven energy. Vietnam is moving away from the old FIT model where the government set fixed prices, and it's now moving toward a market-based system that we already see here, where businesses and developers negotiate the price directly with each other. And that's where DPPA comes in. It allows direct contracts between renewable energy producer and corporate. So in simple terms, the future of energy market in Vietnam will be driven by private demand, not by subsidy. Second is corporate demand has become the biggest driver. This is probably the most important trend because multinational companies like Samsung, Apple suppliers like Foxconn now require their supplier to switch to renewable energy to meet the ESG target. So this is no longer optional. Renewable energy has becoming part of the export compliance, not just sustainability for branding. We are seeing all of the effort in action. For example, you can see that if you are in the sector, you would notice that lately we have the news about Samsung have the first ever Vietnam first grid connected DPPA deal. So the reality is ESG demand has become a real business pressure driving clean energy adoption in Vietnam. Third, we will see a massive solar and wind expansion. Vietnam is already one of the fastest growing renewable energy markets in Asia. So by 2026, the solar and wind capacity could reach around 35 gigawatts. Under the Vietnam's National Energy Plan like PDPA, solar could reach up to 70 gigawatts by 2030 and wind could reach up to 38 gigawatts. So the next big thing to take a look at is the offshore wind. Vietnam has one of the largest offshore wind potentials in Southeast Asia. Fourth is we will see a boom in grid and battery storage. Solar and wind energy are not always stable. They only produce power when the sun is shining or the wind is blowing. This can make the power system harder to manage. To solve this, Vietnam's updated PDPA plan requires new large solar power projects to include battery storage or BESS. These batteries must be able to store at least 10% of the plant's capacity for a minimum of 2 hours. Vietnam is following China's example. China faced the same problem with too much solar power and unstable grid, so it required renewable projects to include battery storage. Vietnam is using a similar approach to improve the system. From now to the next few years, we will see a strong policy push for PDP-8. All of this is backed by PDP-8 with key targets like renewable will account from 28 to 36% of energy mix by 2030, up to 75% by 2050. There's also a strong focus on rooftop solar adoption, industrial energy hubs, and smart grid development. So all of this is not short-term, it is a long-term structural transition. 6. We will see more FDI, so will be a surge in green investment. Vietnam has become one of the hotspots for green investment in Asia. More foreign investors are funding wind, solar, and storage projects. For example, you will see that Foxconn are working with different investors to install solar energy in Vietnam. This shows that renewable energy is not just a policy, it's a major investment story. 7 is we will see Vietnam as the future energy exporter or a regional green energy export hub. Vietnam is no longer looking at the grids as an isolated island. Under the latest implementation plans, Vietnam is setting up cross-border grid connection to export between 5,000 to 10,000 megawatts of renewable power to partners like Singapore or Malaysia by 2030, while building massive inter-regional renewable energy industrial hubs in the north and the south. You can also refer to my video about Asian power grid to know more about the story. The inspiration for this borrows heavily from the European Union interconnected power market and the Laos, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore power integration project. By treating clean electricity as a regional export commodity, Vietnam turns excess power into a massive economic driver. Then lastly, number 8, we will see green hydrogen and fuel conversion. So for heavily industries that cannot run on simple electricity, Vietnam is aggressively looking into converting existing coal and gas plants over to clean fuels like green ammonia and hydrogen, targeting up to 15,000 megawatts of offshore wind capacity specifically dedicated to new energy production. The inspiration for this is it mirrors the ambition decarbonization roadmap of Japan and South Korea, countries that heavily investing in coal-firing technology and mixing hydrogen ammonia into existing thermal plants to transition legacy fossil infrastructure into net zero era. Thank you for watching this video. I know it's a long one. I hope I covered some of the information that could be helpful for you and help you connect the dots. And there's definitely a lot of flaws in this video. I will also list out the sort of information that I take inspiration from to make this video. Thanks to them, this video was made possible. Once again, if you like the content publishing on this channel, please remember to like and subscribe to the channel. And please feel free to give me feedback on how to improve some of the content as well. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. Xin chào!